2, 1.
7 things you probably didn't know you need to know. I'm Jamie East, and this is the Standout 7.
Over the next 7 minutes or so, we'll look back at a week that saw the Met Police in the spotlight as a serving officer pled guilty to a string of rapes and sexual assaults, more strikes as nurses took to the picket lines, a shock resignation in New Zealand, and Rishi flashing the cash. Settle in, grab yourself a cuppa and get up to speed on everything you need to know from the week in 7 minutes or so. This is the Standout 7 from the Smart 7. Don't forget to hit the follow button to get your daily updates at 7 a.m. Monday saw the government seek to enforce a new era of stricter control over public expression as anti-strike and public order amendments went through Parliament. Under Rishi's public order crackdown, police in England and Wales are to be given powers to shut down protests before any disruption begins. Martha Spurrier from human rights group Liberty spoke out about what this bill could mean for the country.
We have to see these changes for what they are, a government's attempt to clamp down on any resistance, on any voice of opposition, and instead to make it impossible for us to stand up to power, for us to make our voices heard when the government do something that we don't agree with.
The new bill aimed at enforcing minimum levels of service during industrial action could throw a spanner in the works as teachers prepare to strike. Labour's Deputy Leader Angela Rayner explained why it's so concerning.
In one breath, he's going from clapping nurses to sacking them. So Labour will be opposing this assault on common sense. We'll vote against the Tories sacking nurses bill, and in government we'll repeal it.
Teachers in England and Wales are planning to strike on 7 days in February and March, beginning on the 1st of Feb. Kevin Courtney, General Secretary of the National Education Union, says the situation in schools has gotten to the point where it's just intolerable and the issue of teachers' pay needs to be addressed.
We don't want to disrupt anything. We want the government to sit down and talk with us to avoid the disruption that's going on every day in our schools.
Wednesday saw another day of strikes with nurses in England and Wales and teachers in Scotland walking out over pay. And as a fresh wave of rail strikes looms in Feb, ASLEF General Secretary Mick Whelan said a deal to stop any further train strikes is further away than ever before. He said he was disappointed his union hadn't been able to negotiate an agreement after weeks of intense talks.
I've never been in a process where people have been so underhand and deceitful, and I've been negotiating at all levels of this industry for about 38 years.
Meanwhile, nurses on the picket line say misogyny has a part to play.
Over 85% of nurses in the UK are women. If this was a male-dominated profession, I'm pretty sure we'd have been striking years ago and would have been getting a better starting wage.
Thursday saw Rishi Sunak splash over £2 billion on levelling up projects across the UK and then spend the day defending how it was dished out. More than 100 areas have been awarded money, including rail improvements around Cardiff and Cornwall and a new Eden project in Morecambe. Speaking in Morecambe, which he flew to by government jet, Rishi Sunak says there was a real buzz about the investment.
It's about spreading opportunity and creating jobs in every single part of our country. But it's also about making sure that people, wherever they live in our amazing country, can feel huge pride, enormous pride, in the places that they call home.
But critics say Conservative voting areas got more money, as did the south of England compared to the north. There's also criticism of the amount councils had spent bidding for the cash, to then find out they won't receive anything. But on Good Morning Britain, Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove insisted they won't miss out.
But I reject the idea that the money that's been spent on these bids has been money wasted, because, again, there will be an opportunity in the future to look at those bids that didn't quite make it.
Shadow Levelling Up Secretary and Wigan MP Lisa Nandy, meanwhile, says the north of England needs long-term investment, not one-off pots of money.
And even the winners are losing because it's the equivalent of handing us a fiver and nicking 20 quid out of our back pocket. We can do better than this Hunger Games style contest where we pit councils and communities against one another.
A brutal missile attack on a civilian apartment building in Ukraine last weekend has killed at least 45 people, making it the deadliest civilian incident of Moscow's missile campaign. It comes amid an increase in attacks on civilian infrastructure since December, something the Times' Middle East correspondent Richard Spencer says could be a show of strength from Putin.
As some people suggest that Putin is saying here, look, you can defeat us on the battlefield, but don't think we'll go away. We're still here and we can still inflict damage.
The attacks galvanised more support for Ukraine, with the Dutch committing to donating a Patriot missile defence system, and the Ukrainian Commander-in-Chief Valery Zaluzhny met with the Pentagon's top general Mark Milley in Poland. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, who was speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos, said the EU will continue to support Ukraine militarily.
But I've said from the onset of this atrocious war
that Ukraine should get all the military equipment it needs and it can handle. And this also includes the advanced system.
Tuesday also saw Olena Zelenska, First Lady of Ukraine, speak in Davos with a warning that Russia won't stop with just Ukraine.
And you know that the Russian aggression was never intended to restrict itself to the Ukrainian borders. This war can go further and it make crises wider if the aggressor does not lose.
On Wednesday, Volodymyr Zelensky addressed Davos via Zoom. The Ukrainian president told global leaders and industry experts the world mustn't hesitate to take action against Russia.
It needed less than 1 second to start the war. The world needed days to react with first sanctions. The time the free world uses to think is used by the terrorist state to kill.
And ahead of a crunch meeting in Germany, defence ministers issued a joint statement saying they'd like to see main battle tanks for Kyiv. President of the European Council, Charles Michel, was in Ukraine on Thursday to reinforce the EU's support.
I believe that tanks must be delivered. I reiterate this appeal. We want to support you because we are aware that the next few weeks may be decisive for what comes next.
A serving Met police officer has been revealed as one of the UK's worst rapists after attacks on multiple women. 48-year-old David Carrick, who was known to colleagues as Bastard Dave, pleaded guilty on Monday to over 40 counts of sexual offences, including 20 counts of rape between 2003 and 2020. The Chief Crown Prosecutor, Jaswant Narwal, condemned Carrick's case outside Southwark Crown Court.
This is one of the most shocking cases the Crown Prosecution Service has dealt with involving a serving police officer. Anyone hearing of the 49 counts David Carrick has pleaded guilty to against 12 victims would agree the sheer magnitude of his offending is horrifying.
Anti-corruption detectives are themselves now under investigation after failing to check his concerning history when he was arrested for rape in July 2021. And Met Police Assistant Commissioner Barbara Gray spoke on Monday night to apologise for having missed chances to stop him.
This is a matter that we are truly sorry for. We have missed opportunities over time to identify a pattern of abusive behaviour.
Still to come on the Standout 7, a Prime Minister quits and the Pop Master makes a move. Right after this. Welcome back. There was shock in New Zealand and around the world as Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern announced she's resigning as Prime Minister and calling a general election for October. She's been PM for 5.5 years, steering the country through the COVID pandemic and events such as the Christchurch mosque attack. She said she spent the summer considering her future and just doesn't think she's got enough energy to face another term.
And so today I'm announcing that I will not be seeking re-election and that my term as Prime Minister will conclude no later than the 7th of February. I know what this job takes, and I know that I no longer have enough in the tank to do it justice. It's that simple.
Alec Baldwin's being charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter over the death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins on the set of one of his movies. She died when a prop gun went off during rehearsals in New Mexico in 2021. The set's armourer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, is accused of the same offence. Baldwin's lawyer called it a terrible miscarriage of justice. He previously denied pulling the trigger. New Mexico District Attorney Mary Carmack Altwies says they looked at the whole setup before filing the charges.
It was the totality of the circumstances, that this was a really fast and loose set and that nobody was doing their job.
He's the affable voice of mid-mornings on BBC Radio 2, but he sprang a surprise on The Nation on Tuesday. Ken Bruce is leaving the nation's favourite station and crossing the road to Bauer's Greatest Hits network. The announcement came out of the blue on his show on Tuesday morning, and before you ask, yes, Popmaster's moving too. They'll all be on the Greatest Hits network sometime in April.
I have now decided that the time is right for me to move on from Radio 2. Nothing stays the same forever, and I really must stress that this is entirely my decision entirely. However, some new opportunities have come up and I would like to continue my career in just a slightly different way.
This has been the Standout 7, the best of the week from the Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow, 7 a.m. with the Sunday 7. Have a great rest of your weekend.